I was remembering one of my teammates recently, and a lesson that popped up. I was watching somebody that was pitching an idea. Uh, I was part of a board of directors kind of conference, and somebody was pitching this idea, and they got to a certain point in the pitch, and it was going really well, and it looked like they were going to kind of win the day, and then they started saying more like they could have stopped at a point and won the day, and they kept going, and for lack of a better way to describe it, ruined it. And it brought me back to a teaching point that I gave to one of my junior officers in the military. I've mentioned this before, but the kind of progression through your career is, if you're lucky, you're aware of great people that you can connect to, learn from, pay attention to, and hopefully you're assigned to them. One of the jobs as an officer is to raise the officers up in the jobs that you just finished, and get them prepped to take the next step and move forward and kind of work their way up the chain of command. And I remember one of my junior officers, so I'm in an assault team. One of the real benefits of being in special operations, we do have really good funding compared to a lot of other units. So there's often time when the budget actually has extra, which sounds crazy, but sometimes there's extra money in the budget. The procurement system in the military is insane. If you don't spend all the money you're given, you don't get the same amount back. So you're sort of incentivized to spend the money, which is a strange way of doing business. That's the game, so we play that game. Every once in a while there's a little extra money, and then you can frankly just go out and buy something, whether that be a course, a new piece of gear, or something like that. One of my junior officers was big into skydiving, big into diving and or jumping, and he had been working at a facility that had one of those wind tunnels, and wind tunnels are unbelievably effective at training you for in-air abilities while skydiving before you get under canopy. And he came in and pitched the idea to me that, like, hey, with some of this funding, it looks like some of this is experiential. We could get some wind tunnel time, which is not inexpensive, and go out there and, practice gears. All things being honest and equal, it was also just going to be a hell of a good time, which there's nothing wrong with that. But it wasn't off the reservation. It totally made sense. He could justify. I said, well, hey, put a brief together that we can brief up to the ops officer or the XO, and let's see if we get this thing approved. So he builds a 20-page PowerPoint brief on how to pitch this idea. He shows it to me. I said, great, get it down to less than 10 slides. He said, can't be done. I was like, well, if it can't be done, then we can't pitch it. So of course he goes and gets it done. He gets it down to like 10 slides. And I was like, look, I'm reading this brief for you, and at slide 5, I think you're done. I don't think these more. He's like, nope, I got to justify that. I was like, no, this will be a learning lesson. Sounds good. So I get us on the books to meet the executive officer, second in command. That's the person to say yes or no to this without question. And we go in for the brief. And I tell my junior officer, like, hey, you're giving the brief. I'm not briefing it. I know I'm senior, but you came up with it. I want you to brief it. It's a good way to practice, and it's yours to win or lose. And don't worry about it either way, but it's a good opportunity. So we get into this brief. He starts briefing the executive officer, and no kidding, at slide 5, the executive officer says, approved. And my junior officer starts to advance to slide 6, at which point I put my hand on his hand. I was like, it's time to go. And he literally gives me a butt, and I was like, no buts, let's go. We get up and we walk out the room. We get in the hall. He looks at me. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, you got the yes, man. All you can do is talk it into a no. At this point, when you work towards a goal, pitch an idea, come up with a system that you're trying to win. When you win, be good with that. The only thing you can do after that is mess it up. Ever onward.